Hey folks, it's Rob, and this is still the player's handbook, player's manual. Um, we finished the solo adventure, and still have, we're on page. That was through page 22. We still have 23 through 60. Actually, through 63. Look at the old classic adverts. Got Dragon Magazine. I used to love getting Dragon Magazine. I would suck it down. I'd take those with me all over the place to have something to read. Um, RPGA Network, that's a Role Playing Gamers Association, and never actually joined. Um, Wish I had the resources at the time to have joined, but I didn't. I was just spending what spare money I had on box sets and like Dragon Magazine. Amazing Science Fiction Magazine. I used to pick this up every now and again. It was actually at the supermarket as opposed to Dragon. I had to go to the hobby shop to get Dragon. Um, and Here we have Star Frontiers game. This was great. I used to play this with friends at school. Um, yeah, we were all into the science fiction and all about it, honestly. And these guys were cool. And I want to say they're Yarzarian. I forget. I did get myself a copy of this, picked it up along the way, but I gave it to my cousin Chris when I moved from Tucson because I only had so much room for stuff. But yeah, I'm looking to pick up a new copy and put it in the library here. And here we have a big adventure for other adventures. So you've taken the first step into a wondrous realm of fantasy role-playing games, and more thrilling adventures await you in D&D Basic. Dungeon Module B1, In Search of the Unknown. And Structural Aid for Beginning Players and Dungeon Masters. This module is the first in the series for the D&D Basic rules. Dungeon Module B2, Keep on the Borderlands. Commonly included in the preceding version of the basic box set and is a classic sandbox module with a lot of introductory information on starting a Dungeons and Dragons game. I'll read this here. Written by the co-creator of the D&D game, this module is an introduction to the game and includes legends, history, and background information. So, talking about Gary, Gary Gygax, and not Dave Arneson. Dave Arneson got a cut of every one of these that was ever put out, or he was entitled to anyway. There's a lot of lawsuits about it. And again, a lot of better videos about that than I can probably go on about on the internet already. It's out there. Books, there's plenty. Dungeon Module B3, Palace of the Silver Princess. Try to discover the fabulous treasure buried beneath the Palace of the Silver Princess. Dungeon Module B4, The Lost City. Food, water, and wealth await heroic adventures inside an ancient pyramid ruled by a strange race of masked beings. B5, Horror on the Hill. Rumored to be teeming with vicious monsters, the Hill of Horror taunts your party, tempting you to plunder its riches and discover its secrets. M1, Blizzard Pass. Trapped by a storm, facing the ghastly horde of goblins, can you survive the peril of Blizzard Pass? This solo adventure uses invisible ink and a special pen to reveal the mystery of the players as the player character creates his own adventure with his choices. And I did have that. I also had to Keep on the Borderlands. That magic ink pen dried out on me while I was playing that game. And boy, howdy does that leave you stuck. You would basically any action you took was revealed by the ink pen, so you had to you didn't know what was going on with your results if you didn't have a way of revealing it. I believe everything is still on Drive-Thru RPG. And I don't know how they handle it. I think I might own it. I'll have to look. Dungeon Geomorphs, a combination of ready to cut square and rectangular dungeon levels, making planning a dungeon quick and easy. Player character record sheets, designed for easy reference. This gaming accessory helps you keep track of all important information for your character during play. This is back when photocopies weren't necessarily easy to come by, and people generally didn't have much in the way of computers or printers. Like, a few years from now, there'll be some computer programs for, like, you could commercially buy. And like, I had like a dot matrix printer in like the late 80s, like 89. But yeah, people bought character sheets. Monster and treasure assortment. Dungeon masters can improve their dungeons with this helpful assortment of monsters and treasure. Tips on how to place in your dungeon are also included, which is actually the main selling point of that product by this point. Although early on, TSR thought everyone's going to want to like tables and pre-generated stuff. When you are ready for tougher adventures, TSR is ready for you with Dungeons and Dragons Expert Set, which I happen to have on the shelf over there. Single book. This one's, all the sets are double books except for the Expert Set. Because there's like a player and a dungeon masters. The base Expert Set is just one book, and it has like a border on the dungeon master section, which you're not supposed to look at if you're a player. So let's read this. What comes next? You have now learned most of the details needed to play a character in Dungeons and Dragons games. You may now play more solo adventures if you like. Several solo adventures are sold separately, including Adventure Module M1 Blizzard Pass and M2 Maze of the Riddling Minotaur. Why would you advertise that on the back there if you know this is already here? Choices, right? However, most of the fun of a Dungeons & Dragons game comes from playing in a group. To play in a group, one person must be the Dungeon Master, or DM. The DM is the person who plays the part of the monsters and runs the game. A new DM should read the first section of the other booklet in this set, the Dungeon Master's Rulebook, before starting the game. It explains all the information needed and includes a step-by-step game for everyone to enjoy while learning. But a new DM should not try to run a game before looking at that book, which is fair, and I don't, I guess you could creatively make up your own stuff based on whatever you felt like, right? But there is an adventure in here, and here's our, standard key for maps. Yeah, there's a group adventure right here, see? And you need to have a group. I don't know. Let me know if I should put together a group. I could build a party. I'd have to run it all myself, both sides of it. But I could do it. And let me know. Comment on this video if you want that to happen. Some likes would be nice. But, if I know there's some call for it, I'll put it together. And it may take a moment. I'm recording a lot of this while my wife's away on a business trip, actually, because in the middle of the night when I'm not working, I may have yelled into the microphone a few times so far in these videos, as you may have noticed. And if I was to be doing this kind of thing, I'd have to be quiet because she's in the other room sleeping, right? And maybe that's great for the ASMR fans out there who just want to hear me talk while they do whatever. But, it's fine. Let me know if you want me to put together a group, and I'll cook something up. I ran that adventure like once, I think, when I was a child. I have DM'd more than a few games in my time, but I really only ran that one time. I haven't even, the new game I did with my wife where I brought her through this stuff. Uh, I kind of expanded the dungeon, honestly, and then we started doing some surface world stuff in the town I built called Birkenford, and that's this here, right? Sketchy little map I put together one night, where we have an inn, and a stable, and a market and a temple, and kind of a watchtower over here, and a ruin. And this is to be Castle Misdemeanor over here, and we haven't gotten to that yet. But I have had her clear out this like barrack over here, and this was a windmill over here, and we took care of that. And it was full of sturges that nearly killed her repeatedly. it was not a good moment for me because I was way out of balance. So, to get back onto what I was reading, and I'm sorry about the large diversions today, but I'm just very thankful for the attention you guys are giving these videos, and also just like trying to get back into the swing of this, right? So, back to the text. A group game is best with 3 to 6 players. Each player should know how to play. If there is time, each person should read through this booklet, just as you have. You may also teach someone yourself by explaining what you have learned, giving them one of the simple characters in this booklet, the fighter or dwarf, for example, and helping them during the game. When you play in a group, you may play your fighter, or you may choose any of the other 6 characters included in the center of this booklet. Before the game, be sure to read the description of the character class, pages 24 to 47, even if you're still playing your fighter. Several players can all have the same fighter character. If different names are used, fighters are always needed. If you have 4 to 6 people in your group, try to play most of the characters given. If you have time, read the rest of this booklet to see what other information is given. More details on group games are given on pages 53 to 58. Some additional rules to add when you are familiar with playing in a group are explained on pages 59 to 62. Don't try to memorize everything, but try to remember the types of things explained. During a game, use the index on page 64 to locate information you need. Now, the index is not actually in this book on page 64. This is on page 64. The index is here on the back of the Dungeon Master's rulebook. But that doesn't make it not useful. It's actually in a quite convenient place to have the index back here. But it does mean that this is inaccurate here in the text. So, character classes. Most D&D characters will be humans. That's these, few people here. Bing, 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 and bing. Although this is the elf, dwarf, and halfling. A character may also be a non-human, a dwarf, an elf, or a halfling. Each of these classes is also a separate race of beings. They are all commonly known as demi-humans, because they seem to be partially human. The demi-human races are all distantly related to the human race. It depends on your setting's mythology, but whatever. One sample character for each of the 7 classes is included in the center of this booklet. You may play those characters in group games, but before you do, be sure to read the full description of the class. You may create a new character instead of using those in the booklet. When you do, you will roll dice to determine ability scores. If the scores are high enough, the character can be a demi-human. Otherwise, the character must be human. The rules for creating characters are given on pages 48 to 52. Prime requisite. Each character class has a specialty. For example, a fighter's specialty is strength. A cleric's is wisdom. This specialty is called the prime requisite for the class, abbreviated PR. If a character's PR score is above average, the character gains a bonus every time experience points are earned. If the prime requisite so it says see the prime requisite adjustment table, which is right here. The prime requisite for each class is given in each class description. Finding the bonus or penalty is part of the procedure for creating new characters. You will not need it until then. So, let's say you rolled some incredibly bad dice to interpret this table. Your prime requisite, for some reason, you're going to have a fighter. Everyone can always make a fighter. Even if you have a 3 on every stat, you can still make a fighter, but you're going to get a minus 20 to your XP for 3 to 5. 6 to 8 is minus 10. And I would imagine you're going to put your best score in your prime requisite. So if you don't have better than an 8, it's going to be an interesting time. But it's minus 10 XP on top of everything else. So you're having a hard, interesting time with a weak character, and you're not getting as much XP as your buddies. 9 to 12, no adjustment. 13 to 15, you get 5% more XP. 16 to 18, 10% more XP. So if you got a 16 strength on that fighter character, he's getting 10% more XP versus, say, the minus 10 of the guy with 8 strength. Admittedly, he's a much more effective fighter by being strong. This encourages you to assign your stats in a way that benefit you. But there's nothing stopping you from rolling up a character that is poorly adjusted. But we can get into that with character generation. Right now, we're just going to continue reading this bit. Saving throws. Each character class will have a saving throw table. Copy the numbers onto your character sheet. Your Dungeon Master will tell you when you need them. To make a saving throw, roll 1d20. If the result is equal to or greater than the number you are given in your saving throw is successful. Eventually, level 36, you might have a 2 there, which basically means you only fail on a 1. So that's the cleric character description here. And then we get into cleric spells. Here's the fighter description. Here we have we have a kind of a table section here in the middle, right? This bit here is like creating a new character, your procedure. Here's a basic equipment list for this level of the game, but it includes things like axes, bows, daggers, swords, and other weapons like maces, clubs, pole arms, slings, and warhammers. And it puts a little asterisk next to these other weapons that can be used by a cleric, which includes a sling, by the way. A lot of people overlook the fact that a cleric can use a sling, and that ranged attack can be quite handy at times. And then you got some general equipment here. Nothing really all that interesting in this list that wasn't already in the list before, except for example, you can buy a holy symbol that costs 25 gold pieces. Also, the Wolf's Bane, 10 gold pieces. And you're like, what the heck do I need Wolf's Bane for? What is Wolf's Bane? Wolf's Bane is supposed to help you against werewolves and other rare creatures. Kind of unusual to have that here, and certainly no. We have a silver dagger over here. So, silver dagger costs 30 gold pieces, and you'd want the silver dagger for purposes of fighting werewolves. As everybody knows, silver attack can injure werewolves, possibly some other magical creatures. We can get into character creation. When I go to character creation, I'll read through the actual archetypes, the actual character sections. We may do class by class or something like that. I appreciate this is not content for everybody at this point. These are our XP levels for the various classes, like for example, and we have titles for various levels. For example, a first level cleric is an acolyte. First level fighter is a veteran. And then at second level, you're a warrior. And at third level, you're a sword master, right? Magic users start as a medium, then become a seer, and become a conjurer. The cleric starts as an acolyte, becomes an adept, becomes a priest or priestess. The thief starts as an apprentice, goes to a footpad, and becomes a robber. And the chart on here only goes to level 3, despite you only need 2400 XP to get to third level. The magic user needs 5000 XP to get to third level. If everyone here is playing the same game and you have a thief and a magic user in the same party and they're all getting the same amount of XP, you're going to be level 4 on your thief. That's 4800 XP for the 4th level thief before the magic user's 3rd level. And this has been a limitation of just like how this game has been divided up into the basic, expert, etc. Here's our thief special ability table. Here's how thieves generally suck pretty much badly at this stage of the game. The only thing they really do well is climb walls. But, you know, they hear noise better than everybody else does. Really is hard to, like, face with the world as a thief when you have a 15% chance of picking locks. You know, there's the dwarf. Dwarves are just dwarven veteran, dwarven warrior, dwarven swordmaster. They're effectively mini fighters. They have their own little special abilities. Elves are kind of dual class fighter mages, which is reflected in their XP, which goes to 8,000 for the 3rd level, and in their titles, because they are veteran mediums for level 1, warrior seers for level 2, and swordmaster conjurers for level 3. Halflings are also kind of mini fighters, but they have different special abilities. But they also level a little easier than a dwarf does. In fact, they functionally level as fighters do at this stage, just 0, 2,000, 4,000, and they are halfling veteran, halfling warrior, halfling swordmaster, right? The encumbered movement rate table, we haven't even got into encumbrance. All those coins add up and slow you down, right? A lot of people don't play with much consideration on encumbrance, at least not to the fine detail you could. Computer games play with it quite often, however, because, you know, it's gut work where you have to keep track of something in minutia, and people don't want to. They want to play the game. Computer will just do that. Container volumes. That's another thing we don't really tend to mess with all that often in regular play, but you can. Like a small sack will hold 200 coins, right? A backpack 400, and a large sack 600, and a saddlebag 1,000 coins, which technically I think is like 2 bags. Really, it's one on either side of the horse. Mule movement encumbrance. So if you put 3,000 coins on the mule, he's fine. 3,000 to 6,000, you cut its movement in half, and it can't move. If you put 6,001 coins on the back of that mule, you killed it. Well, you haven't, but it's too much weight. And you're like, coins? Really? Yeah, coins. That's how they try to keep weight as a standardized item in the game. Functionally, I think it's like 20 coins equals a pound. So we're talking about up to 150 pounds. The mule is not really encumbered in any way. Fair enough. Meanwhile, your encumbrance goes up to 2401 and more, right? You know, it goes up to 2400. You can still haul around 120 pounds worth of stuff. You might recall earlier in the first solo adventure, we hauled a dead body out. I hope Elena, well, I don't know. She looked plump enough. This is the character sheet for the fighter we were playing. This AC's 2 in the later half until I lose my shield. But you can see it already comes pre-filled in for you on that side. This side, of course, is blank. Here's a set of graph paper for you to copy or make, but also you can tear out, as they suggested. This is Staples binding. Right here's the very middle. You can, and I have in certain things, pry up the staple to kind of ease out the pages you want to get out in the middle. Some of the modules and gazetteers were bound this way, and you can get like a player handbook out of the section, or a handout, or a map section out of the book, and they did that quite often. I'm thankful no one ever did that to this. Here's our sample characters, and we might use them if you want me to play through the introductory, adventure. We got cleric, magic user, thief, dwarf, elf, halfling. So, yeah, that's the fighter is the 7th character not included here. The fighter you were playing with me here. Here's a list of the cleric spells, list of the magic user spells. You can see that those are dramatically different as well. Again, clerics don't get spells at first level. So this first level cleric, the only thing he really does that's not fightery is he can turn undead. Other than that, he's basically a lesser fighter. Now, that rapidly changes. The ability to cast spells really is a game changer. Being able to just cast a Cure Light Wounds, that little bit of healing can really turn something around. That's not the only thing they can do, but that is a very stereotypical thing a cleric does, is heal people. And not for no reason whatsoever. Magic user spells, 1st level. Magic user spells, 2nd level. They don't give you magic level spells 3rd level because that game does not go that far. You're up to 3rd level here. We're not going to get into. You're going to get 1 2nd level magic user spell at 3rd level. You'll get 1 magic user spell at 1st, 2 at 2nd, and then you add a 2nd level spell to the 2 1st level spells you have at 3rd, and then that's it. You Again, magic users, rough time in this level. Same goes for the thief. They don't have spells. They have those thief abilities, and they're not good. Combat and ability adjustments. So this is further elaboration on the combat. See, here's our combat sequence table. Starting with each side rolls for initiative, rolling 1d6. I believe this is in the further sections of the book later that aren't involved with character creation, and I believe we can get into that. Character hit roll table. At this part of the game, basically everybody has the same character hit roll table because they all suck at 1st level. Here's the armor class for the related armor items. As you can see, plate mail's 3, and getting a shield gives you a bonus of 1. Variable weapon damage, which is theoretically an optional rule. I've never actually played a D&D game outside of the solo adventures where variable weapon damage wasn't used. Certain weapons will do more damage than others. For example, a club or a dagger does a D4, while what they call normal sword is 1d8, which uses the 8-sided die. Which is also what you have to roll to find your hit points on. This one here. This is basically 2 pyramids stuck to each other. Missile fire table. So you got your ranges for like crossbows and longbows and short bows and spears and flinging oil or holy water or throwing hand axes or daggers at people. Using missile weapons, remember to adjust for dexterity, range, cover, and magic. Because they might be protected in certain ways. Saving throws. This illustrates some of the advantages of why you might want to play a demi-human if you have the option to do so. For like example, A is death ray or poison, B is magic wands, C is paralysis or turn to stone, D is dragon breath, and E is rods, staves, or spells. So a dwarf or a halfling, for example, has an 8 or better to resist death ray or poison. While the worst person on that is, normal man has a 14. So dramatically worse than a halfling or a dwarf. But if you were a, fighter, it's a 12. 8 versus 12. That's 4 points of difference on the die. Significant advantage on your saving throws. Prime requisite table, ability score bonuses and penalties, intelligence adjustments. This is about like how many languages you can handle, and for example, ability score bonuses and penalties. I should come to that too. So, for in general, your ability score, let's say it's a 3, you get a -3 penalty on whatever. So, like if your strength was a 3, you get -3 damage on your die roll, and -3 to hit. 4 to 5, -2 penalty. 6 to 8, -1 penalty. 9 to 12, no adjustment. 13 to 15, +1. 16 to 17, +2. And 18 is a +3. Having a +3 to hit, for example, huge. And +3 damage. It's great when your fighter has an 18. And there are ways to get to 18. Intelligence adjustments are specific, however. 3 has trouble with speaking and cannot read or write. 4 to 5 cannot read or write common, so you're illiterate. 6 to 8 can write simple common words. 9 to 12, no adjustment, can read and write common and alignment languages. 13 to 15, you choose an additional language. 16 to 17, 2 additional languages. 18, 3 additional languages. That's, of course, total. These aren't additive. Charisma adjustment. So, remember how Lena was like okay with us being there? She went into the dungeon and she had the option of encountering, a snake or a human male fighter, and she chose human male fighter, unlike most people choosing bears nowadays. So charisma score of 3. Reaction adjustment is -2. And you can have 1 retainer maximum who has a morale of 4. Morale is determined on 2d6. Just to give you an idea. So they're very likely to flee in the event of a problem. 4 to 5 is a -1 adjustment. You get 2 maximum retainers, morale 5. 6 to 8, -1 still, but you can have 3 retainers with a morale of 6. We don't need to get into all of it, but basically you can have up to 7 retainers if you have an 18 charisma, why this is not necessarily a dump stat, because if you got 7 guys behind you willing to beat up something, you're doing pretty well. Hiring retainers, which is another thing in this game. Find NPCs, explain the job, make an offer, hire, buy equipment, and make a retainer sheet. You basically have this little sub-NPC that the player runs. And then we get back into the book. So, magic user, right? And then more spells here. The thief. And thief special abilities. The dwarf. Elf. Halfling. And the elf piggybacks onto the magic user because, they do get spells. So, you refer to the magic user spells section for their spells. Halfling. And here we have the making up a new character section. And we're over a half hour, so I'm going to stop here. We'll work on this. And, next time. Because I think this is where we get back into actually describing some of the rules that we were talking about through the center section. And I think that'll be more interesting. So that's where we'll pick up next time. Thank you very much for watching. And again, remember, if you want me to put together a party or go through the character sections, please let me know. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.